Well, is it time to get rid of Parkerball? Burnley are going nowhere under Scott Parker. So many social media tweets have said, or are we being too reactive? Millwall are a good side. We are reviewing Burnley's loss to Millwall and asking Dan whether he's a fan or not of Parkerball. We're talking about the left-back headaches. Who starts against Swansea this weekend as we preview the next fixture? And we look ahead to the month of November. Plus, with it being Firework Week, we're going to ask Dan which player needs a rocket. And there's quite a few of them given on the Millwall performance. How are you, Dan?
I'm good. Well, I'm all right. Thank you.
Before we get started, could you all please press that subscribe button? We make this content. It's 20 minutes every single week. There's loads of other great content out there, Turfmore Chat and so on. Go and follow them. Also, just drop a subscribe and a like. We really would appreciate that. Okay, then, Dan, has your patience run out yet with Scott?
It's wearing thin. It's not run out, but it's wearing thin. I think, we've talked a lot about Parker, and I've been quite sympathetic to him, saying we need to, give him time, give him the opportunity. The squad's new, get them together. We're 2.5 months in now. He's had a full week training with these boys without interruption, and we go and put that out. It was just poor, and people will say I'm too negative, what have you. Fine, I'll accept that. But my view was that just wasn't good enough. He can only do so much. But we've seen managers get so much more out of these players. It has to fall on his shoulders at some point.
Yeah, Vincent Kompany would get more out of them, wouldn't he?
He possibly, he would do. But the thing that frustrates, and after his post-match interview, Parker said, well, we set up, we knew where their dangers were coming from. It was going to come from set pieces. We set up knowing what they were going to be like and what have you. Under Kompany, and as much as, you can't go back and what have you, and if Kompany was still here, who knows? But under Kompany, we went out and we played our way. It didn't matter what they were going to do. We played our way. They deal with us. With Parker, he's very much, well, we'll see if we can contain them. We'll try and sort them out, say their style of play. We'll adapt for that, and then we'll see what we can get out of it. There's just no identity there. There's no front foot. There's no imposing us on them, making them wonder how they're going to deal with us. Whereas with Kompany, it was a case of this is how we're going to play. We'll probably beat you 6-0 in this league. Obviously, in the Premier League, it went different. And then if you score against us, good luck to you. If you know how to stop us, brilliant. Whereas with Parker, he doesn't seem to have that mentality. So you're right. I think under Kompany, we breeze this league. And I know that's harsh to say because you never can tell with this group of players, but I think he gets so much more from him.
I think I agree with you from what I watched of the game earlier. I thought, especially second half, he didn't really lay a glove on, did you? For balance, though, let's have a look at what Jack says. He said to all the Twitter Clarets moaning about Scott Parker, shut up. We are still high in the league table and is still trying to play with a generally inexperienced squad. Trust the process, fellas. In Parker, we trust. I did check to see whether he was a Blackburn fan. He's definitely not. Parker's card, he says, get him gone. I hate being a hire and firing club. It's not what we're about, and I worry for us if we were to become that. But, as you said, Dan, it's not good enough on any level. And, more worryingly, this is why I think more people are changing now, I don't see anything changing. This is now 7 games. You won at Sheffield Wednesday 2-0, but 5 of those games have ended goalless, the last 7. And some more worrying stats was this one from Josh. Over the last 5 games, Burnley have the lowest XG in the entire EFL, the lowest big chances made in the entire EFL, and they're the joint lowest goal scorers in the entire EFL. Current form is finishing 15th. Goals scored plus chances has made us finishing 16th. I mean, goodness me, with the budget that you have and the players that you have, my goodness, he's skating on thin ice, isn't he, if he doesn't get results against Swansea this weekend?
Well, possibly, but, let's have a positive spin on that last tweet there. At least we don't go down. But in relation to what the first guy was saying about, let's stick with it and what have you. If I hear, it's a young squad, inexperience, all that kind of stuff. I mean, you look at the team that started today. Trafford's had 2 or 3 seasons with us. He's had a couple of seasons, albeit at a lower level, but he's played enough professional football in and around this level, if not higher, to know. I'm not, don't get me wrong, people say, oh, he's hating on Trafford. I'm not. Connor Roberts, Welsh international. I don't know how old he is, but he's played hundreds of games. Esteves, okay, and Riley and Bashir Humphries, but Humphries come from Chelsea. You know, he's not a rookie. You know, he's not like some guys never played football before. Josh Lawrence played about 3 million games at this level. Josh Cullen, again, played in the Belgian leagues. He's played hundreds and hundreds of games. You know, Brownhill's played for Burnley now for 5 years or something close to. You know, these are not inexperienced. Jaden Anthony, the same. I don't know about Andreas, we'll call him. I can't pronounce his last name, but Hatunji, I think it's called.
Hatunji.
But, you know, he's an international. You know, these aren't people who are saying we've just brought them off the streets. They've never kicked a ball before. Give them time. These are experienced players. They're only young. I guess some of them are. But you're supposed to have that good mix of youth and experience and what have you. And these people are not, you know, fresh, green people who've never played football before. These are people who've played at a decent level, played a lot of games at that level. And for us, yes, they are a new team, and you've got to get that, you know, knowing each other, how each other play. But, you know, that it's wearing thin. And, you know, if against Swansea, if they turn up, play like that and get beat again, I understand the balance to that is, you know, we're fourth. We're about 3 points off second. We've only lost 2. We're not conceding loads. Fine. But we said last week, you can't go up 0-0. You just can't do it. We need to start imposing ourselves. And if we play like that again against Swansea, I think the crowd will be horrible. I think it'll be a toxic atmosphere. I think he'll get booed off the park. And I think you'll get more people turn on him. So I'm not saying it's his last chance, far from it. But I think it'll go a long way to determine how much more time this team the crowd give him.
Absolutely. Of course, we're recording this before the midweek fixture as well. We'll come on to that in a second. Can I just ask you about one other thing about the left back situation? Martin says the left back situation doesn't work. Either it's clear Humphries is a good footballer, but let's play the actual left back there, shall we? Bloke's got to take the handbrake off, and he also says a 3 in the midfield doesn't work. What's your view on this, on the left back situation here?
Well, I think Humphries is probably a better player than Perez, but Perez seems to be a naturally left-sided player. So it's a tricky one to call. Do you play Humphries there, who's a better player, but's probably playing out of position? Or do you play Perez there, who's not as good as Humphries, but is a more naturally left-sided player and seems to, you know, fit into that role a bit better? It's a difficult one to call. I don't know what Egan Riley. Don't get me wrong, Egan Riley's had a couple of solid games. He's not doing anything, you know, to wow anybody or cement his place in that side. But there's an argument to say, well, if Humphries is that good, put him in the centre half with Estev, and then put Perez at the left back. And then everyone's playing, you know, he has a real reluctance as Parker to play people in the correct positions. So if you to do that, everyone's more naturally in the right position. Everyone seems to be a better fit. And then, you know, even further up the pit park as well. I know we're talking about left backs, but he's playing Koleosho on the right. He's playing Anthony on the left. Koleosho's not a right football player. If you give Perez and Koleosho, for example, a chance on the left together, who are both naturally left-sided players, then it may well fit better and we might get a bit more progression from it, because Perez is naturally going forward. For me, I'd play him there, put Humphries in centre-half, and I'd drop Riley. People are thinking I'm being a bit harsh there, but I don't see what Riley's done to deserve his place. But, you know, that's how I would sort it. But there's a reason why I'm drinking Cruzcampo on a Sunday night talking to you. And Scott Parker's in charge.
Okay. Drop your comments below as to what you would do with it. It is a tough one, isn't it? But surely, if you've got a left back sitting on the bench, they should be starting. They should be starting in that position, shouldn't they? All right, then let's leave the that game behind now. Let's have a look at November, because we're now into the 4th month of this championship season. West Brom away, of course, on Thursday night. This week. Do we know why that's a Thursday night fixture, Dan?
Because it's one that all the fans want to see. I imagine Sky plucked that and thought that's where everybody wants to see on a Thursday night. I have no idea. I don't know. I can only imagine the Sky TV's put on that they're going to be showing hundreds of EFL games, you know, Championship, and and lower leagues, that it just fits within the schedule in that way. Because we've got that game Thursday, then we play Sunday, and then we have a week off. So whether that's the reason, I don't know. Whether it's to fulfill contractual obligations, I don't know. But I can't see there'll be millions watching it.
Well, not when you that what is it? UEFA, the Champions League is on, isn't it? I think
Europa League and
Europa League will be on Thursday night with United and Chelsea. Yeah, no offense here, Dan, but I actually think West Brom Burnley could be the season's most boring game to watch, given how both teams are doing at the moment. Then Swansea
you didn't
on
watch
Sunday,
did you?
We'll talk about the Swansea game more in a second, and then, like you say, 2 weeks off, which I'm sure will be good for Burnley to get some injured players back, and then Bristol City, who are going well, undefeated in the last 8. Coventry at home and Stoke City away. So, I mean, there's nothing too worrying there at all, is there? But then we talked about that when we were looking at QPR at home, when we were looking at Plymouth at home, and you were thinking, well, this month's looking all right. And then, of course, we know what happened. We know what happened against QPR. Do you look at that and think, well, we've got to really now get our act together here, because Leeds have got a very easier month this calendar month compared to most teams. So you could find yourself very easily 9 points behind if you don't sort your act out.
We could, West Brom's a tough game. They're up in the top 5, 6. They're playing well. I think they got a point over the weekend. Swansea again are not a great team. At the turf, you'd have thought we'd do them well. Bristol, by then, you don't know what their form is going to be like. Currently, they're all right. Coventry, again, they had a good win against Borough. They won 3-0, I think it was, this weekend. So, and then Stoke, I think, did they win as well? I'm not fully...
Yeah, they beat Derby,
yeah. So, all these teams are okay. They are, in theory, lesser teams when you look at the league. But like you say, we spoke at the beginning of October saying, right, well, this is 15 points for Burnley now, or what have you, and we've ended up with about 5. With this run, if he can't come out of that with at least 10 points, and it's 5 games there, it's 2 points a game. I know it's asking a lot, but if we can't come out of there with 10 points, then when do they have to change it? Do we give him a transfer window in January and say, right, there you go? Look, if we come out of there and he's won every single game, we come back in a few weeks' time, that Dan don't know anything about football. Why have you got him on here? Or what have you? But similarly, I can't see after today's game, after the run of form we've been on, that we're going to get much from any of them. You'll get points here and there because we'll have 0-0s and horrible results. But as it stands right now, they are a run of not easy, excuse me. They're not easy fixtures, but they are winnable games. And I don't think we will.
Okay. Let's talk about the Swansea game just briefly then. This was the lineup against Millwall in the last weekend. What and who should drop out, and what changes should be made for Swansea? We obviously don't know about the West Brom game, how that's gone so far, but what would you do?
I think I would take out. I'd move the back 4 into what we've just discussed. We put Humphreys into the middle, Pires back at the left back, and then in midfield. As much as this is going to be unpopular, I would drop Cullen. I just don't think he's had 2 games now. He's not offered an awful lot. He came off again today. He's not the player he was 2 seasons ago. I put in possibly even Hannibal in there. And then I also would take Anthony off and put Crowley Osho on the left, subsequently put Sarmiento on the right, a bit more of an attacking option. He played Sarmiento through the middle today when he came on. I've no idea why. People will correct me on that reason, but he just played him through the middle when he came on. It was a strange decision. And then Hatunji, he actually played all right in the first half. I thought he looked okay. He has a hell of a shot on him, but possibly... you might put Fleming back in. He was obviously not cup tied, but he's on loan from Millwall. Yeah, so I'd make quite a few changes to that team, into the setup of it, the personnel of it. I would change the manager, bring back in Company, get get the old DeLorean out, go back 2 years. It's but no, those are the changes that I think would make them big positive changes, because you can't stick with that again because that was dire.
Okay. Just to point out, of course, as well that the Lackey, who was a goalkeeper who got Ipswich promoted this time last year, is still sat on your subs bench. Just a point.
Yeah, no, it's difficult to drop Trafford at the minute because we are keeping clean sheets. He wasn't to blame for the goal today. It was a good header. He loops it over into the far corner. I don't think that keeper saves it. But that being said, Trafford came out in the first, I think it was the first half or something. He comes out, tries to clear a ball, spoons it straight into the air. He made a gaff last week. He made a gaff against Chef Wednesday. So he's got that in him. You do wonder, what's he going to do? Play him in the FA Cup? That's it. What's point in buying him?
No point, was there? Okay.
No.
All right, then. I want to get your opinion. Just one final thing. People have commented because Watford are, I think, in 5th and Millwall now in 7th. That this championship this season is well, the actual tweet said it's garbage. But we'll paraphrase it to saying that the championship is one this year where it's so weak that anyone can end up in the playoffs. So what you've seen so far of the 14 games, the competitiveness of them, do you believe this is a far weaker championship than it was the last time you were here?
It's difficult to say because last time we were here, we beat everybody who came near us. So it's a tough one to say that. But that being said, I was having this conversation with somebody else the other week, and I haven't seen a team come and you think, crikey, they're good. And we've seen Leeds. We've seen them down the road, albeit they're always rubbish. But we've seen Sunderland. Even when Sunderland beat us, they weren't groundbreaking in what they did. And I do think it's a poor league. It's a weak league this year. And I think that, you saw for the first 2 games, that team that we came down with, which was pretty much our Premier League team, wiped the floor with 2 teams, absolutely destroyed them. You then swap it out, and we've had battles against mid-table teams, rubbish teams. No one's come and blown us away, and we've been poor. So I do agree to say it's not the strongest championship I've ever seen. There's no teams in there who you're thinking, crikey, they're like a cut above the rest. You're just thinking anyone realistically from 15th upwards can beat anybody, and they've just not been entertaining a lot of the time. It's been horrible watches. Okay. I watched the game on Friday. It was dreadful.
Yeah,
Luton, West Brom.
We had the Carabao Cup, of course, this week as well, and all 8 teams left in the quarterfinals are all Premier League sides. Last year we had Middlesbrough in the semi-finals, and I think somebody else was in the quarters. But yeah, the Premier League, the gap between the Premier League and the Championship seems to be probably its widest it's been for a while. Maybe Leeds and Sheffield United and yourselves apart, but okay, we'll see how it develops. But yes, I think many would agree.
It'd be interesting to see how the FA Cup goes in January, because if the Championship get drawn against lower league opposition, it'd be interesting to see how many Championship team goes out. I appreciate people may swap and put them in, but using that same analogy, it'd be interesting to see.
All right, final question for you this week then, Dan. Which player needs a rocket more than any other? Who has not lit up the season yet? Of course, it's been Bonfire night this week.
You could put your hand in the bowl and pick up any name, but I think certainly, I think Cullen. I think, like I said earlier on, I don't think he's been anywhere near where he needs to be, and also Anthony. He had so much promise when he first started, and it's just gone off. So between those two, I'll probably pick Cullen just to get back to where he was, and get that engine going again.
Brilliant. Okay. Thank you very much, Dan. We'll leave it there for this week. Enjoy your trip to the Hawthorns, or the Drawthorns, as it's called now, because they've drawn, I think, 6 in a row. And then we'll see you next week after the Swansea game as well. If you haven't yet subscribed, of course, you know what to do. Hit the button, and we'll see you next week. Enjoy your week.